Remember when lunchboxes were metal, TV had only 3 channels, and when the future meant bright chrome and rocket ships? Welcome to the Rocket Kid Chronicles by David Stafford.
Chapter 6. 7-Up, Peanuts, and 45s. The benefits of a shady barter system. We didn't find ourselves on Riverton by chance. My father, never one to sit idle when thirsty patrons needed a place, launched Norm and Jerry's Welcome Inn, a bar at the corner of Riverton and Magnolia Boulevard. It wasn't glamorous. It had more naugahyde than ventilation and carried the unmistakable aroma of Lucky Strikes and Pabst Blue Ribbon. It had charm, sure, but the "we've seen better days" kind. Still, it was a local, the kind of place where patrons had strong opinions about both the Dodgers and the Cuban Missile Crisis, sometimes in the same breath. My sister and I, by some glaring oversight, were the only minors allowed in. It was the early 60s, when seatbelts were dismissed as trifles, and putting whiskey in a baby bottle was considered a progressive sleep strategy. A couple of kids on bar stools didn't raise the eyebrows you might expect today. I frequently dropped by to see Pops, who usually held court behind the bar, towel over one shoulder and a Lucky Strike performing its slow, inevitable descent into ash at the corner of his mouth. He'd hoist me onto a bar stool, sticky in the summer heat, setting me up in grand style with a bottle of 7-Up sweating on a cardboard coaster, a small package of Planters peanuts, and a neat stack of quarters to feed into the gleaming chrome Wurlitzer. Dropping coins into the jukebox felt almost magical, like stepping into a world of bright lights and soulful melodies. For 25 cents, you could summon Ray Charles, Patsy Cline, or, if you were lucky, the whole bar joining in on Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini. Each press of the letter number keys felt like a spell, and watching the mechanical arm find its way to the record was pure magic. To me, it was a grand circus. Adults gathered around my father's bar, the jukebox filling the air with the era's music, and I sat with my soda and peanuts, feeling like the luckiest kid alive to be allowed into this clandestine world of grown-ups. Every few weeks, usually on a Thursday morning before the regulars trickled in from the neighborhood, the Music Man would appear. Always cheerful, in a short-sleeved shirt and slicked-back hair reminiscent of a Vegas crooner, he carried a battered leather case that jingled with coins and smelled of vinyl and aftershave. To me, his visits felt as exhilarating as Santa Claus descending the chimney in the middle of summer. He'd lay out his treasures across the bar in sparkling rows, fresh 45s tucked in crisp sleeves, each one a promise of sound and rhythm. My father would eye them like a man making a crucial investment. He had an uncanny sense for what customers needed after a long day at Lockheed or navigating those infamous valley traffic snarls. You could count on a little Ray Price, perhaps a dash of Sam Cooke, and the latest surf rhythm destined to make our jukebox hum like it was alive. Once the new records were selected, the Music Man rolled up his sleeves and swapped the weathered ones for shiny newcomers. It was a ritual of renewal, like spring cleaning for the bar. The records that had lost their charm were stacked at the end of the bar. Dad never threw them away. He'd slide them across the counter to me with a quiet wink, as if sharing a profitable secret. Those old 45s became my treasure, each one a fragment of our bar's soundtrack. They were my first prized possessions, and in my ears, they sounded like shimmering gold. Whenever I hear that faint crackle before a song begins, I'm back in that bar, the sunlight slanting through the dusty window, the mingled smells of beer and smoke in the air, and my father's smile as the jukebox welcomed the latest tunes. I adored the labels as much as the music. Each one spun under the needle like a tiny work of art, some loud and brash, while others were refined. Each promised a world far bigger and more thrilling than the one waiting just outside. There were sunny yellow Capitol labels, deep maroon Columbia, the orange and yellow swirl of RCA Victor, moody purple Imperial, confident black Atlantic, and playful pink and white Cameo Parkway. I can still picture the silver and blue London label glinting like chrome and the deep red Reprise logo radiating swagger. For me, these were more than colorful labels. They were passports to distant places, When that needle dropped, I could find myself in Nashville alongside Brenda Lee, in Detroit jiving with the Four Tops, or back in sunny California where the Beach Boys crooned serenely in the background. Long before I could steer a car, those little records were my free pass to adventure. Meanwhile, the bar's regulars came and went in their easy valley rhythm, pushing open the squeaky door and letting in a blast of hot air from Magnolia Boulevard. They settled in the familiar grooves along the bar, drank, laughed, and spun tales I only half understood but seemed crucial at the time. Dodgers box scores, Khrushchev's shoe at the United Nations, Chevy versus Ford. Arguments rarely escalated beyond theatrical finger-pointing, as nobody wanted to jeopardize their place in Pop's good graces, or, more importantly, his credit book. Some nights, bills were settled in cash. Other nights, they were negotiated through a barter economy common in bars of that era. A guy might trade Pops a set of discount tires or a length of coaxial cable that had fallen off a truck for another round of Pabst. Deals were sealed with handshakes, laughter, and an unspoken understanding that the IRS probably wouldn't approve. One day, the barter economy took an unexpected turn. A regular, whose credit line had drifted somewhere between creative and hopeless, arrived looking sheepish yet determined. He explained that he couldn't settle his tab in cash, but had something of real value to offer. From his pocket, he produced a small velvet ring box, the kind you'd see in a jeweler's window next to a sign reading, "Easy Terms." Inside lay a diamond engagement ring. It wasn't enormous or flawless, but it was the genuine article. A modest sparkle caught the low amber light of the bar, turning it briefly elegant. My father turned it over in his palm, squinting at it as if it might reveal a secret. He had never managed to afford such a treasure for my mother, and the thought of finally gifting her something sparkling, even second-hand, was touching. In a moment of rare spontaneity, he made the trade then and there. The customer, debts wiped clean and drink in hand, toasted his newfound solvency, while Dad slipped the ring box into his pocket as if it contained a precious secret. That night, he presented the ring to my mother with all the finesse of royalty bestowing a crown, and she was overjoyed by the love and thought behind it. She wore that ring proudly for the rest of her life. Years later, when I had grown and found myself stepping into my father's shoes in more ways than one, the ring came to me. I used it to propose to my own wife, completing a circle that began in a smoky North Hollywood bar where debts were sometimes paid with dubious merchandise, and, on one extraordinary evening, a little glimmer of forever.
Stay tuned for more of The Rocket Kid Chronicles.
Up next, the Great Meltdown of '65.